A female student went missing and was later found brutally murdered, her body burned beyond recognition. The identities of the 4 perpetrators shocked many, especially when a photo of them smiling after being arrested sparked nationwide outrage. The fact that the victim endured 10 hours of horror further angered the public, demanding the immediate trial of the 4 perpetrators. Surprisingly, after some time in prison, the 4 murderers expressed remorse, crying and apologizing to the victim's mother. The more shocking detail was that the victim's mother, who once vowed never to forgive the perpetrators, later formed a strange alliance with the ringleader of the crime. Before we begin the story, don't forget to subscribe to the channel to receive notifications whenever there's a new video. This is a true story that happened in Madison, Indiana, USA. On the morning of January 11, 2 brothers on their way to hunt birds discovered a strange object in an abandoned soybean field near Lemon Road. Initially, they thought it might be a mannequin that someone had burned and discarded, but upon leaving their car, they discovered it was a charred human body. At 10:55 a.m., the Jefferson County Sheriff's Office in Madison received a report from the 2 brothers. The Jefferson County Sheriff and detectives immediately arrived at the scene. Apart from a pair of underwear, the victim was almost completely naked, with the body burned up to the waist. The victim's legs were spread apart, arms tied up in the air, and hands clenched into fists. The victim was likely a young woman, but her chest was severely damaged, making identification difficult. The most horrifying aspect was perhaps the victim's face, completely disfigured, with clenched teeth. Shortly after, Indiana State Police and forensic experts arrived at the scene to conduct a thorough investigation. The initial assessment suggested that fire was used to destroy specific evidence crucial to the investigation. Upon examining the victim's private area, forensic experts found that her underwear had been displaced, indicating signs of abuse, possibly before or after the murder. Initially, the police suspected it might have been a drug deal gone wrong, carried out by gangs. Due to the gruesome nature of the crime scene, they believed it couldn't have been committed by local residents. However, after further examination of some evidence, this possibility was ruled out. The victim was wearing a bracelet, the type commonly worn by students of Jefferson Middle School as part of their uniform, with the initials SGH engraved inside. Not far from the crime scene, they discovered a burned and deformed plastic bottle containing gasoline. Who was this victim? Why was she brutally murdered in an abandoned field? By 9 p.m., the same day, a couple, accompanied by their daughter, arrived at the Jefferson Sheriff's Office in Madison. The couple reported that their daughter had witnessed a female student being brutally murdered. Upon hearing details related to the murder case in Jefferson, the sheriff was shocked. Coincidentally, at 1 p.m., another couple had reported their daughter missing. Her name was Shanda Scherer. Hearing that the name of the murdered girl matched the missing person, police suspected it might be the same case. The sheriff immediately called the couple who had reported their daughter missing to identify the body and provide DNA samples for verification. The shocking revelation was that the girl who came to report the crime was actually one of the perpetrators but, out of fear, confessed everything to her parents. Another girl later also arrived at the police station, with her parents and a lawyer to report the incident. The 2 girls confessed that their group consisted of 4 people, with the main perpetrators being 2 other girls. They admitted to sitting in the car and witnessing the entire incident, but were too afraid to intervene and save the victim. Was the body found in the field really Shanda? What had happened to her on that horrific night? Shanda's parents, Stephen Scherer and Jackie Vaught, rushed to the police station with hopeful expressions, thinking their daughter had been found. However, upon seeing the sheriff's solemn but sorrowful face, they realized something terrible had happened to their daughter. Jackie could hardly believe it and reacted hysterically when informed of her daughter's condition. Dental records confirmed that the victim found in the abandoned field was indeed Shanda. Early in the morning on January 12, the police immediately arrested Lori Tackett and Melinda Lovelace. Two strange men knocked on the door. Loveless's mother, after briefly hearing about the incident, led them upstairs where Tackett and Loveless were sleeping. The police read the arrest warrant, while Tackett and Loveless were still groggy from sleep. Both were handcuffed and taken away immediately. Also on January 12, the forensic doctor conducted Shanda's autopsy and was shocked by what had happened to her. The results showed that the victim had been tortured for about 10 hours before being burned, with her body covered in injuries. The horrifying case angered the American public, who demanded the immediate trial of the four she-devils. Despite being teenagers, the four perpetrators were tried as adults due to the heinous acts they had committed against the victim. Through the testimonies of Tackett and Loveless, the murder was reenacted in court, leaving the victim's parents in utter shock. Everything started when Shanda met her friend Amanda Heverin at Hazelwood Middle School. After an argument, both were punished, but it helped them resolve their misunderstanding and become friends. Their friendship grew, and eventually, the two girls began exchanging romantic letters and started a relationship. Amanda Heverin's ex-girlfriend, Melinda Loveless, became jealous upon seeing Shanda getting close to Amanda. In October 1991, Amanda and Shanda attended a school dance together and were caught by Amanda's ex. At this point, Melinda began planning Shanda's murder and even made public threats. Worried about their daughter dating this troublesome girl, Shanda's parents decided to transfer her to another school. However, Amanda kept trying to contact Shanda, sending letters and calling her frequently. On the night of January 10, 1992, Melinda was furious upon discovering that Amanda had lied about things related to Shanda. Enraged, she told her best friend Lori Tackett, and the two decided to pick up their friends Hope Rippey and Tony Lawrence for a night out. Hope and Tony were the two girls who later went to the police station to report the crime. Melinda and Lori were close friends, while Tony and Hope were Lori's friends. The two had never met Melinda before. The girls drove Lori's car to Melinda's house and devised a plan to kidnap Shanda to threaten her. Melinda explained to the girls that she disliked Shanda because she was a copycat and had stolen her girlfriend. When they arrived at Shanda's house, the four girls were shocked by the luxurious home, something they never had due to their unstable childhoods, divorced parents, and constant arguments. Hope and Tony knocked on Shanda's door, claiming to be Amanda's friends and inviting her to come with them to meet Amanda at the witch's castle. However, Shanda wasn't allowed to go out at that hour, so she arranged for them to return at midnight when she would sneak out to join them. Hope Rippey and Tony Lawrence returned to the car, which angered Loveless, but she eventually calmed down and discussed the next part of their plan. The four girls then went to a rock concert at a nearby park. At 12:33 a.m. on January 11, they returned to Shanda's house. This time, Tackett and Hope Rippey were tasked with picking up Shanda. After some hesitation, Shanda trusted them and got into the car. As they neared the witch's castle in Utica, Hope asked Shanda about her relationship with Amanda. Suddenly, Melinda sprang from the back seat, holding a knife to Shanda's throat and threatening her. Terrified, Shanda cried and begged Melinda not to hurt her. Throughout the drive, the jealous Melinda continuously insulted and berated the victim. When they arrived at the witch's castle, an abandoned area, Lori set an old shirt on fire for light and told Shanda that she would end up like the burning shirt. Overwhelmed with fear, Shanda could only cry and plead for mercy. Hearing a passing car, the group panicked and decided to leave the area with Shanda. Shanda begged the girls to take her home, but they refused. During the next car ride, Melinda ordered Shanda to remove her bra and swap it with Hope. After a while, the girls got lost and stopped at a gas station, hiding Shanda under a blanket. They called someone for directions to the forest near Lori's house, where they began torturing Shanda. Hope and Tony, scared, decided to stay in the car, while Melinda and Lori tortured the poor girl. Later, Melinda suggested going somewhere else instead of staying at Lori's house, but when Hope and Tony refused, they were left behind. As dawn broke, the two returned to pick up Hope and Tony. and they all planned how to dispose of the victim, with Hope and Tony agreeing to go along. Lori opened the car trunk, found a bottle of Windex, a glass cleaner, and sprayed it on Shanda's wounds, mocking the girl. They drove to a nearby gas station and filled an empty 2-liter soda bottle with gasoline. Then, they drove to an abandoned field, where Tony stayed in the car while the other 3 girls took Shanda, still alive, outside wrapped in a blanket. Lori ordered Hope to pour gasoline on the victim, while Melinda set her on fire. They quickly left, but Melinda worried the fire would go out, so they returned to pour the remaining gasoline from the bottle. Shanda is officially gone, Melinda happily told the group. Lori was also pleased to have helped her friend, while Hope and Tony remained silent. They had many chances to save Shanda, but did nothing. Exhausted after tormenting the victim, the group stopped at a roadside fast food restaurant. Lori then drove Hope and Tony home. Later, Melinda called Amanda and another friend, Crystal Wathen, to tell them about Shanda's murder and arranged a meeting to prove what she was saying was true. At first, both Crystal and Amanda didn't believe what they were told, until Melinda showed them the car trunk and Shanda's blood-stained clothes. Horrified, Amanda demanded Melinda take her home and promised not to tell anyone about what had happened. Amanda kept her promise to her ex-girlfriend, despite knowing about the murder and the death of the girl she loved. Due to the sheer brutality of the case, the public demanded the immediate trial of the 4 she-devils. On March 15, 1992, prosecutor Guy Townsend charged Hope Rippey and Tony Lawrence with Shanda's murder and aggravated battery with a weapon. However, the judge ruled that the 2 girls were merely accomplices and did not directly participate in the murder. On April 9, Melinda Loveless and Lori Tackett were indicted for Shanda's murder with the highest degree of severity. By April 22, prosecutor Guy Townsend agreed to a plea deal with Tony Lawrence in exchange for her full testimony against the other 3 members of the group. Although she avoided the death penalty, Tony faced a prison sentence ranging from 6 to 20 years. Many people were outraged by Townsend's compromise, especially Shanda's parents. On August 17, Tony was found unconscious in jail after attempting to take her own life. After Tony's recovery, Judge Todd decided to transfer her to a psychiatric treatment facility in Jefferson. By April 21, Melinda and Lori agreed to plead guilty and accept several charges in exchange for avoiding the death penalty. By November, Melinda and Lori were brought to 2 separate trials, where they admitted to their actions. Once close friends, Lori continuously blamed Melinda during the trial, even stating that she planned to appeal and pursue a career in child psychology. On February 14, TV reporters' vans lined up outside the Jefferson County Courthouse to cover the trial of ringleader Melinda. Many people cried as Shanda's mother, Jackie Vaught, spoke about her beloved daughter, showing photos and videos of Shanda when she was alive. "It's all over. Our lives have been shattered. I want my daughter home this Christmas. I'll have presents waiting under the Christmas tree for her," Jackie said sorrowfully. Melinda Loveless was sentenced to 60 years in prison, the maximum penalty for her age at the time of the crime. She cried loudly upon hearing the verdict. At that moment, no one could believe she was the perpetrator of the horrific crime that night. Judge Ted Todd made only one remark as Melinda was led away. "You still have the chance to live and do whatever you want after prison, but Shanda never will. Be satisfied with that." Lori Tackett received the same sentence but showed no reaction upon hearing it. Just 2 days after the sentencing, Shanda's parents filed an appeal. The case was covered by Louisville Television, with plans to produce a film based on the tragic incident. Shanda's parents agreed, hoping their story would reach more people and garner support for their upcoming legal battle. Tony Lawrence's trial began on January 19, 1993. Tony was highly cooperative, with several teachers and friends testifying in her favor. When allowed to speak to Shanda's family, Tony burst into tears in court. "I am deeply sorry for what I have done. I know you will never forgive me. I will never find peace for the rest of my life, Tony sobbed. I have attended 3 trials for these monsters. They all deserve punishment. The lawyers are trying to convince everyone that they were victims, but the real victim is Shanda. My daughter, no one else, Jackie responded through tears. Tony Lawrence was sentenced to 20 years in prison, and she collapsed in tears in the courtroom. Hope Rippey's trial began on June 1, 1993. Hope stated that the only thing she did to Shanda was pour gasoline on her. Hope's psychologist, Sheehan, testified that all of Hope's actions were carried out under the orders of Loveless and Tackett. However, his statement was not accepted. Hope was sentenced to 50 years in prison. In the spring of 1994, Tony Lawrence began serving her sentence. 4 years later, in 1998, she applied for clemency but was denied. In 2000, Tony applied for clemency again, and this time her request was granted. In December 2000, 24-year-old Tony Lawrence walked out of prison after serving nearly 9 years. In November 2004, the Indiana Supreme Court officially reduced Hope Rippey's sentence from 50 years to 35 years. According to Judge Jenny Meunier, Hope had shown full remorse and had the potential to become a good citizen after her release. She was enrolled in a distance learning bachelor's program at Ball State University for inmates and might be released even earlier. Shanda's mother was truly shocked by this news. She couldn't accept that those who murdered her daughter were being released earlier than expected. This had a profound impact on Shanda's family. Her father, Stephen Scherer, unexpectedly passed away at the age of 52 in 2005. Jackie stated that her ex-husband was overwhelmed with grief over their daughter's case, living in constant despair. He turned to alcohol and drank excessively for years. When he learned that the perpetrators were being released one by one, his anger grew, and he died in sorrow. In April 2006, Hope was officially released after serving 14 years. She was 31 years old at the time. In October 2007, the lawyers of Loveless and Tackett began preparing the necessary documents for their sentence reduction requests. However, this faced strong opposition from the victim's mother. Jackie Vaught was determined not to let it happen. By late December 2007, a petition with nearly 7,000 signatures was submitted to the Supreme Court. As a result, the efforts to reduce Loveless and Tackett's sentences faced significant obstacles and were ultimately unsuccessful. Nearly 20 years after her daughter's death, Jackie Vaught continued to live in sorrow. She agreed to appear on the Dr. Phil show for the first time in 2011. I can't imagine what my daughter went through, Vaught told Dr. Phil. She felt heartbroken thinking about how her daughter was still alive when the 4 monsters burned her with gasoline. The grieving mother couldn't believe that mere jealousy had driven the 4 girls to commit such a brutal act against her daughter. Also on the show, Jackie Vaught and her eldest daughter faced one of the 4 perpetrators for the first time, Hope Rippey, who had been released in 2006. Jackie stared straight into Hope's face and said, "You were inhumane on that fateful night." Hope pressed her lips tightly, her eyes welling up with tears, saying that during her time in prison, she constantly apologized and couldn't explain her wrongdoings. The confrontation between a grieving mother and one of her daughter's killers on television attracted many viewers. "Let me tell you this, until you have a child, and your child is murdered the way you did to mine, you will never understand a mother's pain," Jackie said. As of 2012, Melinda Loveless, the mastermind behind the murder, had spent over 7,000 sunrises and sunsets behind barbed wire. Few people knew that while in prison, she had found a new life as a service dog trainer for people with disabilities. For 7 years, Loveless had become one of the most trusted and capable trainers in the Indiana Canine Assistance Network ICAN program. Melinda cared for and trained Odell, a court therapy dog for abused and traumatized children. However, a dog named Angel was unlike any other. He became an unexpected connection to Melinda's victim, Shanda. 125 miles away, Shanda's mother, Jackie Vaught, was still enduring the unbearable pain of losing her daughter. "I have always said that if you want to see someone who has nothing inside, just look into Melinda's eyes. There's nothing there," Jackie once stated. Jackie never wanted to have any contact with those who murdered her daughter. "All I ever said was that I just wanted them to serve their sentences. That's all I ever said in court," she shared. However, a breeder supplying dogs for the ICAN program in the prison created an unexpected connection. As a burn victim like Shanda, Charlie Patrizio convinced Jackie to watch the latest video of Melinda in prison. Jackie was truly astonished to see the mastermind behind her daughter's murder appearing almost completely transformed. Melinda has learned how to nurture something, love it, and then let it go, just like she did with Odell in March 2011. Jackie saw something in Melinda that she had never seen before. She is very compassionate. "I think the ICAN program gave her something in life, unconditional love from her four-legged friend, and the ability to give love in return," she said. In an astonishing move, Jackie Vaught accepted Charlie's idea to donate a puppy in honor of Shanda and let Melinda be the one to train it. Upon hearing this, Melinda couldn't believe it. It was only when she saw the puppy, Angel, running into her arms for the first time that she dared to believe it was real. That was the puppy Jackie had touched, held, and named. "And I said, 'Oh, this is unbelievable,'" Melinda recalled. Jackie faced criticism for her decision to let her daughter's killer honor Shanda's name. "It was my choice. If you don't let good things come from bad, then nothing gets better. And I know what my daughter would want. She would want this," Jackie explained. Melinda tearfully stated that Jackie's forgiveness had helped her heal and grow. "She did a good thing. I want to thank her, and maybe just saying thank you isn't enough," Melinda said. Over time, Lori Tackett was unexpectedly released on January 11, 2018, the exact 26th anniversary of Shanda's death, after serving 25 years. Before her release, Lori Tackett appeared on Dr. Phil in 2011. The middle-aged woman with short blonde hair said that if she could go back to that fateful night, she would do everything in her power to stop it. "I didn't know Shanda. I just thought I was helping my friend scare someone. It was peer pressure, that's all. Things got out of control way too fast. It was something that should have never happened," Lori said. As for Melinda, she was also released from prison on September 5, 2019, after serving 26 years. Since her release, she has never appeared in the media or spoken about the past. The case of jealousy-driven murder, where 4 teenage girls kidnapped and burned a schoolgirl alive, haunted the entire nation and has now come to a close. Share your thoughts, feelings, and opinions about this story in the comments section below. This video has come to an end. Don't forget to hit the like button and subscribe to the channel, as it will help us continue to bring you more meaningful content. Thank you for watching, and see you in the next videos.